Google Glass. Google Glass was supposed to change how we use technology by putting the internet directly in your field of vision, but the project collapsed almost overnight despite years of hype and billions in R&D. Launched to the public in 2013 with a $1,500 Explorer edition, the headset used a tiny prism display and voice commands to deliver maps, messages, and real-time video calls. Google co-founder Sergey Brin wore prototypes to press events, and early adopters included major brands like Volkswagen and Virgin Atlantic. But battery life barely lasted a few hours. The display caused eye strain, and critics worried about secret recording. Bars and movie theaters banned the device, Glasshole became a meme, and developers lost interest as key apps disappeared. By January 2015, Google abruptly ended consumer sales and quietly pivoted to a short-lived business version before finally discontinuing Glass altogether in 2023. A dramatic retreat for what was once billed as the future of computing, Segway. The Segway was marketed as a transportation revolution that would replace walking, yet it never escaped niche status and ended production in 2020 after selling only about 140,000 units in nearly 2 decades. Inventor Dean Kamen raised over $90 million and promised sales of 100,000 in the first year, while tech leaders like Jeff Bezos and Steve Wozniak praised early prototypes. The self-balancing scooter used 5 gyroscopes and tilt sensors to check balance 100 times per second, letting riders cruise up to 12 miles per hour by simply leaning forward or back. But at roughly $5,000 and 80 pounds, it was too heavy, too expensive, and too restricted. Many cities banned it from sidewalks, and riders faced accidents that made headlines. Despite no fatal technical flaw, the company simply stopped making Segways, leaving a once-hyped next big thing to fade quietly into tourist rentals and history. Microsoft Kinect. Microsoft Kinect was marketed as the future of gaming, a motion-sensing camera that let players control Xbox games with nothing but body movement and voice commands. Launched in 2010, Kinect quickly became the fastest-selling consumer device in history at the time, moving 8 million units in its first 60 days and earning a Guinness World Record. Its infrared depth sensor could track 20 joints on a player's body and recognize spoken commands without a controller, inspiring developers to dream of gesture-based computing far beyond games. But the magic wore off fast. Laggy response times frustrated gamers, third-party games were shallow, and living room space requirements limited appeal. Microsoft bundled Kinect with the Xbox One in 2013, driving up the console's launch price and sparking backlash. By 2017, the company quietly ended production, leaving behind cutting-edge hardware that simply didn't fit mainstream habits. 3D TVS. In the early 2000s, every major TV maker, from Sony and Samsung to LG and Panasonic, pushed 3D televisions as the next big leap in home entertainment. The sets used active shutter or polarized glasses to create the illusion of depth, promising to replicate the theatrical success of Avatar in living rooms. Tech expos devoted entire halls to 3D screens. Cable providers launched special 3D channels, and Hollywood rushed out Blu-ray titles to match. But consumers balked at the expensive glasses, dimmer picture, and limited content. Broadcast standards never unified. Early sets suffered from eye strain complaints, and streaming services focused on 4K resolution instead. By 2017, every major manufacturer quietly dropped 3D support, turning what was once hyped as the future of television into a brief, expensive fad that disappeared almost overnight. Google Plus launched in 2011 as Google's ambitious attempt to challenge Facebook with a cleaner design and privacy controls built around circles, which let users share posts with select groups of friends. At first, it looked unstoppable. Millions of Gmail and YouTube users were nudged into signing up. Google integrated +1 buttons across its search engine, and the company tied Google Plus profiles to YouTube comments to force adoption. Within weeks, it had 90 million users, making it one of the fastest signups in history. But activity lagged almost immediately. Users created accounts but rarely posted, confused by circles and frustrated by forced integration. Internal leaks later revealed that over 90% of sessions lasted less than 5 seconds, and a massive 2018 data exposure bug gave Google the excuse it needed to pull the plug. Despite billions in investment and years of cross-promotion, Google announced the consumer shutdown in 2019, leaving only a lightweight enterprise version. A platform that had Google's entire ecosystem behind it simply vanished, proving that even the world's biggest search engine can't manufacture social chemistry. Vine. Before TikTok ruled short video, there was Vine, a looping video app that let anyone share 6-second clips of comedy, music, and absurd micro-stories. Launched in 2013 and bought by Twitter even before public release, Vine exploded to more than 200 million active users in just a few years. The platform launched the careers of future YouTube and Hollywood stars like Shawn Mendes, King Bach, and Lele Pons, and advertisers rushed to experiment with its fast, endlessly looping format. But Twitter struggled to monetize the audience. Creators complained about the lack of revenue sharing, and Instagram's Twitter's new 15-second video feature siphoned users away. By late 2016, Twitter announced Vine's shutdown with only a short blog post, shocking a global fan base and leaving thousands of creators scrambling to migrate their audiences overnight. Despite massive cultural influence and zero major technical failures, Vine was simply turned off, proving that a thriving creative community can disappear with a single executive decision. Windows Phone. In 2010, Microsoft entered the smartphone race with Windows Phone, promising a fresh alternative to iOS and Android. Its colorful live tile interface earned praise for speed and simplicity, and early partnerships with Nokia produced sleek Lumia devices with excellent cameras. Microsoft poured billions of dollars into marketing, secured carriers in more than 50 countries, and even bought Nokia's handset division in a $7.2 billion deal to jumpstart adoption. For a brief moment in 2013, Windows Phone climbed to a double-digit market share in several European markets and seemed poised to become a true third ecosystem. But key apps like Instagram and Snapchat lagged behind or never launched. Developers balked at maintaining a third platform, and Microsoft's late pivot to a unified Windows 10 mobile fractured its audience. Despite technically solid hardware and fluid performance, sales cratered. By 2017, Microsoft stopped active development, and in 2020, the company ended all support, urging users to switch to iOS or Android. A mobile operating system backed by one of the richest tech firms on Earth simply disappeared. Google Reader. For nearly a decade, Google Reader was the go-to tool for anyone who wanted to follow hundreds of websites without clutter or algorithms. Launched in 2005, the RSS aggregator let users subscribe to news feeds and read them in a clean, chronological interface. Tech journalists, bloggers, and information junkies relied on it as the backbone of daily internet consumption, and Reader quietly amassed millions of loyal users despite little advertising. Its simplicity and speed made it beloved, but it offered limited opportunities for social features or advertising revenue, the lifeblood of Google's business model. In March 2013, citing declining usage, Google announced Reader's shutdown with only a few months' notice. Users protested, petitions gathered hundreds of thousands of signatures, and competitors scrambled to build replacements, but Google held firm. When the service finally went dark on July 1, 2013, countless websites lost a key traffic source overnight. There was no technical failure, no scandal, and no clear successor, just a quiet corporate decision that killed a tool many considered near perfect: BlackBerry. In the mid-2000s, BlackBerry smartphones were the ultimate status symbol for executives, politicians, and celebrities. The company's secure email service, physical QWERTY keyboards, and blinking red notification light made it the default choice for governments and Fortune 500 companies. At its 2011 peak, BlackBerry controlled over 40% of the US smartphone market and operated its own encrypted messaging network used by millions worldwide. But the iPhone's 2007 debut changed consumer expectations almost overnight. Touchscreens, apps, stores, and fast web browsing left BlackBerry's small screens and limited apps looking outdated. Executives dismissed Apple's threat, insisting that keyboards and corporate contracts would protect their niche. Attempts to modernize, like the BlackBerry Storm touchscreen phone and the later BlackBerry 10 operating system, arrived too late and with too few apps. Market share collapsed year after year until, by 2016, hardware production ceased entirely. The company pivoted to security software and licensing deals, but the iconic phones themselves simply vanished. HD DVD. In the mid-2000s, a fierce battle erupted over the future of high-definition home video. HD DVD, backed by Toshiba and Microsoft, versus Sony's Blu-ray format. HD DVD arrived first in 2006, cost less to manufacture, and secured early support from major studios like Universal and Paramount. For a time, it looked like the logical successor to DVD, and sales of HDD players briefly outpaced Blu-ray. But Sony struck exclusive deals with heavyweights like Disney and 20th Century Fox, and the PlayStation 3 shipped with a built-in Blu-ray drive, quietly seeding millions of compatible players in living rooms worldwide. In January 2008, retail giant Warner Bros. Announced it would drop HD DVD to support Blu-ray exclusively, triggering a rapid domino effect among remaining studios and retailers. Within weeks, Toshiba conceded defeat and discontinued the format, leaving consumers who had invested in HD DVD players with a dead standard practically overnight. Despite strong technology and major corporate backers, HD DVD went from promising market leader to obsolete in less than 2 years. Microsoft Zune. When Microsoft launched the Zune in 2006, it pitched the music player as a direct challenger to Apple's iPod. The device featured a larger screen than most iPods, a sleek brown or black casing, built-in FM radio, and a Wi-Fi sharing feature that let users beam songs to nearby Zune owners. Microsoft backed the rollout with a $100 million marketing campaign and promised deep integration with Windows Media Player and the Xbox ecosystem. But the market had already shifted. Apple dominated with iTunes and the iPod's massive accessory ecosystem, while early Zune models lacked a proper app store or seamless software. Consumers mocked the clunky interface and the limited 3-play Wi-Fi sharing restriction. Even after Microsoft improved the design with the Zune HD in 2009, adding a vivid OLED display and a slick touch interface, sales lagged far behind Apple's. By 2011, Microsoft quietly discontinued Zune hardware and rebranded its music service before killing the brand entirely in 2012. Samsung Galaxy Note 7. In August 2016, Samsung unveiled the Galaxy Note 7, a premium smartphone with an edge-to-edge screen, S Pen stylus, and high-capacity battery designed to outshine Apple's upcoming iPhone 7. Early reviews praised its display and build quality, and pre-orders broke company records. But within weeks, reports surfaced of devices overheating and catching fire, sometimes while charging, other times while simply sitting idle. Samsung issued an initial recall and replacement program, blaming a battery defect from one supplier. When replacement phones also began to combust, airlines banned the model from flights and carriers pulled it from shelves. In October 2016, Samsung halted production entirely and launched a second global recall, ultimately retrieving more than 2.5 million units and taking a multi-billion-dollar loss. Investigators later traced the fires to separate design flaws in batteries from two different manufacturers, but the damage to Samsung's reputation was done. The Note name survived in later models, yet the Note 7 itself was erased, becoming one of the most dramatic product recalls in tech history, Google Stadia. In 2019, Google announced Stadia, a cloud gaming service that promised console-quality play without expensive hardware. Players could stream blockbuster titles directly through Chrome browsers, Android phones, or Chromecast devices, with 4K graphics rendered in Google's massive data centers. At launch, Google boasted partnerships with Ubisoft, Bethesda, and other major publishers, while touting click-to-play YouTube integration that would let viewers jump into a game instantly. But cracks appeared almost immediately. Game selection was thin. Performance varied by internet speed, and promised features like instant sharing of game states arrived slowly or not at all. Developers complained of low player numbers, and Google's in-house game studio shut down after barely a year. Despite backing from one of the world's richest tech companies, Stadia never built a critical mass of players. In September 2022, Google abruptly announced the platform's closure and offered refunds for all hardware and game purchases. By January 2023, servers went dark, leaving only a few open-source tools and controller hacks as evidence of a billion-dollar gaming experiment that vanished almost as quickly as it launched. Oculus Go. When Facebook, now Meta, launched the Oculus Go in 2018, it looked like the headset that would finally bring virtual reality to the masses. Unlike earlier Oculus models, the Go was a standalone device. No PC, no smartphone, no tangle of wires. It featured a crisp 2560 by 1440 LCD display, built-in speakers, and a simple hand controller for an affordable $199 price. Tech reviewers praised its comfort and ease of use, and early sales outpaced expectations for a brand-new VR category. But the Go's limited 3-degree tracking meant users could look around but not lean or walk through virtual spaces, and the content library quickly lagged behind the more advanced Oculus Quest. By 2020, Meta announced it would discontinue the Go and shift entirely to the Quest line, ending software updates the following year. Despite solid reviews and strong early demand, the headset that seemed poised to democratize VR simply vanished from Meta's product lineup. Nintendo Virtual Boy. In 1995, Nintendo introduced the Virtual Boy, a tabletop console that promised true 3D gaming years before modern VR. The red and black headset projected dual images through oscillating mirrors to create a stereoscopic effect, letting players experience depth without glasses. Nintendo hyped it as a revolutionary step beyond the Game Boy, pricing the unit at $180 and launching with titles like Mario's Tennis and Red Alarm. But the technology was far from ready. The heavy headset rested awkwardly on a stand, forcing players to hunch over, and the monochrome red display caused headaches and eye strain after just a few minutes of play. Developers struggled to create compelling games within the hardware's limits, and only 22 titles ever reached shelves worldwide. Sales barely cracked 800,000 units, a fraction of Nintendo's projections. Within a year, the company halted production and quietly buried the brand. The Virtual Boy remains a cult collectible and a cautionary tale of pioneering too early in the race toward virtual reality. Sony Betamax. Sony's Betamax videocassette, introduced in 1975, offered sharper picture quality and better tape durability than the rival VHS format. Early adopters praised Betamax's compact cartridges and professional-grade image fidelity, and for a time Sony seemed poised to dominate home video. But Betamax tapes initially recorded only 1 hour of footage, while VHS offered up to 2 hours, enough to capture an entire movie without changing tapes. Licensing decisions also hurt. Sony kept Betamax proprietary while JVC licensed VHS freely, allowing dozens of manufacturers to flood the market with cheaper players. Hollywood studios released more titles on VHS, rental stores stocked the format that customers demanded, and by the mid-1980s, VHS controlled more than 70% of the market. Sony continued producing Betamax decks for niche users into the early 2000s, but the mainstream battle was over by 1988. Despite technical superiority, Betamax became the textbook example of how market strategy can outweigh better engineering. LaserDisc. Long before DVDs or Blu-ray, LaserDisc offered movie fans near-theatrical picture and sound. Launched in 1978 by MCA and Philips, the format used large 12-inch optical discs capable of storing video at far higher quality than VHS. Collectors loved the crisp analog image, digital stereo sound, and bonus features like director commentaries, decades before DVD extras became standard. But LaserDisc came with major drawbacks. The discs were bulky, players cost far more than a VCR, and movies often required flipping or swapping discs mid-film because of limited storage. Retail prices were steep, with many titles selling for $30 to $40 when VHS tapes could be rented for a few dollars. Despite a passionate niche following in Japan and among cinephiles in the United States, the format never broke into the mainstream. By the late 1990s, DVDs delivered similar quality in a cheaper, smaller package, and LaserDisc production quietly wound down. A technology that set the stage for modern home video simply faded away. Palm Pilot. Before smartphones ruled the world, there was the Palm Pilot, a sleek handheld organizer that defined mobile computing in the late 1990s. Introduced in 1996, the Palm Pilot let users manage contacts, calendars, and notes on a monochrome touchscreen using a stylus and a unique graffiti handwriting system. Its simple interface, week-long battery life, and reliable syncing with desktop computers made it a runaway hit with business professionals and tech enthusiasts. By the early 2000s, Palm had sold tens of millions of devices and briefly dominated the personal digital assistant (PDA) market. But as mobile phones gained email and web access, the need for a separate organizer dwindled. Palm tried to adapt with the Trio smartphone and later the WebOS platform, but the iPhone's 2007 debut rendered its offerings obsolete almost overnight. Acquisitions by HP and other companies couldn't revive the brand, and by 2011, the once iconic Palm name disappeared from store shelves. The gadget that first put a digital office in your pocket simply slipped into history. AOL Instant Messenger. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, AOL Instant Messenger (AIM) was the heart of online social life. The service launched in 1997, letting users chat in real time, set clever-away messages, and maintain carefully curated buddy lists. For millions of teens and college students, the familiar door-opening login sound signaled the start of an evening of gossip, flirting, and inside jokes. AIM quickly grew to tens of millions of active users, influencing everything from early internet slang to modern emoji culture. But as texting and social networks like Facebook emerged, AIM's desktop-based chat rooms began to feel outdated. Attempts to add features such as file sharing and mobile apps arrived too late. By the early 2000s, most users had migrated to smartphones and newer messaging platforms. Despite its deep cultural footprint, AOL announced AIM's official shutdown in December 2017, quietly ending an era of online communication. The once dominant chat service simply disappeared. Yahoo before Google became a verb, Yahoo was the gateway to the web. Founded in 1994, Yahoo Search, Mail, and News made it the most visited website in the world by the early 2000s. Its homepage served as a daily starting point for hundreds of millions of users, and Yahoo Mail became the default address for an entire generation. At its peak in 2000, the company was valued at over $125 billion, and executives famously turned down a $44 billion buyout offer from Microsoft in 2008. But strategic missteps piled up, a confusing series of CEOs, late investments in search and social media, and missed opportunities to buy Google and Facebook when they were still small. Security breaches exposing billions of user accounts further eroded trust. By 2017, Yahoo sold its core internet operations to Verizon for just $4.5 billion, a fraction of its dot-com peak. Once the face of the internet, Yahoo now survives mainly as a brand for email and finance news, a slow, quiet decline for a company that once defined online life.